Hey everybody, welcome to HBCU Game Day. I'm Tali Carr in Atlanta. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. If you missed us on last week's episode, man, we had a special edition taking a look at the political crisis here in America and specifically how it relates to HBCUs. Look, it's always something different since January has rolled in. There's a lot to keep up with. So it was a special time for us to give a little context to the news and reframe the way that we look at things moving forward and giving a little historical perspective as well. So in case you missed that episode and you're like, what are you talking about? Go to the HBCU Gameday YouTube channel. But this week we are back to sports and we are talking brick by brick with the Johnson C. Smith University women's basketball team. Now, when we last left off with our series, it was before Christmas and the ladies had that big loss against Virginia Union University. Man, there's a quasi spoiler alert. I know there's a lot happening with the Johnson C. Smith women's basketball program. If you know, you know. If you don't know, hold on for the ride. We'll get into that a lot more next week. But right now, let's pick up action around mid-January and the Johnson C. Smith University women's basketball team trying to put together back-to-back wins with VUL in the house.
After back-to-back losses heading into the holiday break, the women of JCSU basketball found themselves still looking to find the right locker room chemistry. And sometimes all you need to get back in your bag is a little team bonding and a big team win. And the Brick by Brick Media Day photo shoot felt just like the boost they needed, as the ladies of JCSU Hoops turned their locker room into the latest Media Day in HBCU Game Day history. And they kept that same energy heading into the next home game, where a more connected, better energized JCSU team was looking to get a little streak going with a win against the Virginia Lynchburg Dragons, a notoriously scrappy Christian college squad known for playing any team, anywhere. And if the Golden Bulls want to get back to put the banners up in Brayboy, they needed to lock in and shift the season's momentum back in their favor with a big dub.
Defend, box out, win 50-50 balls, get your confidence. Have fun. This is a game where you have fun by executing and doing all the small things the right way. And getting yourself in a flow with your offense and with your defense and your team chemistry. I should see a lot of high-fiving, a lot of I got yous, a lot of positive energy, all right? A lot of scrappiness. Put your foot on their neck early so that we can get more people in the game, all right? Don't make this a competitive game. Make this a game about us, all right? Make this a game about us. Set the tone for yourselves and come out assertive and aggressive, okay?
Here we go, ladies. Continue streak on me. Continue streak on 3. 1, 2, 3. Continue streak.
And with the students back on campus and the band up in the stands, it was beginning to feel a lot like hoop season in Charlotte, as JCSU tipped off looking to get a statement win over VUL. Golden Bulls running up a double-digit first quarter lead over the hard-nosed Dragons. Extending it to as many as 16 before heading into halftime with a 34-20 lead. And while a 14-point halftime lead would be great against a conference opponent, the expectations in the locker room after the first half against VUL had clearly not been met.
We got 12-point game. That's what we did.
We got to run it.
We haven't scored the last one.
We got to run it up.
We ain't scoring this again. There's no one else got like 30.
We got 32 points.
That'll make
That's it.
We had 20 in the first quarter.
This is one of those games where you practice playing hard for 40 minutes, all right? That's what type of game this is. This isn't a game where you chill, you're lackadaisical because you can be. Playing hard for 40 minutes has to be habitual. And that means when you play against these teams like this, it has to be in you, not on you. All right, let's stop letting stuff be on us and let it be in us. All right, so we should be playing 40 minutes hard. We should have way more than 35 points right now. 34 points. And they shouldn't have 20 points. But y'all gotta get used to this because come Tuesday, it's gonna be loud with the band and loud with the crowd. All right? So I'll have to scream to the top of my lungs and y'all gonna have to repeat stuff, all right? But this has to prepare you for Tuesday, all right? The band gonna be there, team's gonna be, your crowd gonna be there, all right? Hey. We don't have a problem with y'all having fun, but have fun in the right way. Have fun in the right way. With focus, execution on offense, rebounding, defending, and playing team basketball. All right? Continue to bring positive energy. Make sure you bring energy on all levels, whether you're on the bench or on the floor. All right, here we go. Hey, execute, foot on that, come 3. 1, 2, 3, foot on that.
Wow, foot on necks. That's the way to come out in the second half. Let's see when we come back from the break just how the Johnson C. Smith University women's basketball team comes out. Brick by brick continues right here on HBCU Game Day. You guys stick around. Welcome back. It's HBCU Game Day. I'm Tolly Carr in Atlanta. When we left you, the Johnson C. Smith University women's basketball team sitting on a pretty comfortable lead at the half against VUL. Let's check back in now with Wally Pitt and more of Brick by Brick with JCSU.
Here we go. Hey, exit, foot on that, come 3. 1, 2, 3, foot on that.
And while the Golden Bulls showed that they were the more talented team, there was something to be said about how hard the VUL Dragons played from both of the buzzer. As they chopped the 20-point third quarter JCSU lead down to 9 midway through the fourth, off pure hustle alone. And even though JCSU got the 67-53 win behind 24 points from Keyshawn Brown, they were going to have to take some of that VUL hustle with them into the back end of conference play. As the Golden Bulls knew they had to get ready for a dogfight early next week, when arch rival Livingstone College comes to Braywood Gym for a game that everybody in Vegas Road comes out to see.
You cannot come out like that on Tuesday at all. Like, what?
No, but that's real.
But no, like,
I really hope y'all taking it.
yeah, because every CIAA team in the conference done beat them by damn near 50 points.
And I feel like it started with our focus, like even coming in and one
That's what
more
I'm saying. We went to the game like we're about to.
yeah, like and we played down to their level. Like we did not set the tone.
It feel like one of them saying when you do like a win is a win. Yeah, a win is a win, but you want it to look a certain way. All right, because you want to have a certain level of confidence going into the next game because there are a lot of tangibles in this game that's going to flow over to Tuesday's game. All right, you're going to play against a team that plays just as hard as this team. All right, because that's all they got, but they have more skill too. They got more skill, and you got to play people honest. So practice and playing for 40 minutes, hard, focused, like a team. You got to do that against these sorry teams too, because then we look sorry. We look sorry. And it's embarrassing because you want to come into this like turn hype because we did everything right. We executed our offense. We made extra passes. We scored in transition. We locked up. We didn't let them score 53 points on us. We let them score maybe 30, but not 53 now. All right? So it's hard to not come in here and be honest with y'all about the win. Yes, I'm happy we're winning. Absolutely. I want to continue the winning. But we are not going to be able to continue the winning if we're playing like this versus these type of teams when it's time to play against the Livingstones on Tuesday. All right? So don't take these moments for granted. These moments is your opportunity to practice being great. Not practice being something that we're not. Practice being great. We practice being like VUL today. And VUL almost beat us at playing their game. And I told y'all, if y'all come out playing like VUL is better at playing their game than we are. And we tried to play their game today. I didn't like that. All right, here we go. Family up 3. 1, 2, 3. Family!
Won the game, and it was ugly.
Go Bulls.
Well, a win is a win, but not all wins are the same. If you know there is big news coming with the Johnson C. Smith University women's basketball team as we follow them in the Brick by Brick series. It is a docu-series, so we don't keep up with them in real time, but big news is on the way. That's as much as I can tease it. So make sure that you follow us next week right here on HBCU Game Day. One more portion of the show to go. When we come back, we'll talk with HBCU Game Day founder Stephen J. Gaither. We have a lot of headlines to run through. We'll give you information and reaction when we come back. This is HBCU Game Day. Hey everybody, welcome back to HBCU Game Day. I'm Tolly Carr, hanging out with you guys. We appreciate your company. Let's get to the headlines of the week, courtesy of HBCU Game Day, and who better to bring in than the founder. This guy does a lot of writing as well. Stephen J. Gaither from HBCUGameday.com. Steve, thanks for joining us, man. We got a few things to discuss this week. Let's get into what might be the biggest story that kind of caught people off guard, I'll say. There was a report, an investigation of a gambling ring, and it tied back to HBCUs in the report. What's going on there?
Yeah, Sally, it was something that was shocking to a lot of folks. I know a little at the end of January, Terry Rozier, NBA basketball player, he came under scrutiny in this probe. And basically, there is a sports betting ring there where they are reporting unusual sports betting activity. So the NBA headlines were the first to catch on, but apparently it has stretched into college basketball, and that includes games including HBCUs, North Carolina A&T and Mississippi Valley State to be exact. The report from ESPN didn't say that that was very high level, just basically saying that, the same ring that was attached at the NBA level was also involved in some betting practices or betting scenarios that got flagged. And one that they mentioned was North Carolina A&T against Delaware earlier last month in January. So they didn't give a specific game for Mississippi Valley State, but anytime you're talking about illegal gambling rings and sports betting, it's going to get people's attention. And I don't think anybody expected to see HBCU games on that radar, but I mean, we are a part of college basketball, so it was a shock for sure.
Well, Steve, wherever you have gambling, you're going to have people who are going to try to influence the outcome. Now, look, I'm not a holy roller, Bible thumper, super conservative, whatever tag you want to attach to people who are anti-gambling. I don't gamble because I don't understand. I still get confused about over under and all the terminology. Like, I just don't get into it. I'll play the lottery. That's about it. But I have no qualms against people who do. But we have seen through the course of time that someone is going to try to rig the system so they can win some money. And what better way to rig the system than to share some money with people who can have impact on the actual game itself. Now, this is just a report. This is not a complete investigation. They were looking at some irregular bets or a pattern of activity around those games. So it could be a coinky dink. It could be something. But for sake of conversation, Steve, I think if I were a degenerate gambler, and I was a criminal looking to influence some things, I would try to go somewhere where I would think, they're probably not going to pay attention to this sector. And I hate to say it, Steve, but HBCU basketball could fit that potential demographic from a criminal's viewpoint that the overall general public might not be paying attention, and they could fly under the radar, which to me, if you're an HBCU or a smaller school, it doesn't have to be an HBCU, but, schools that would be FCS during the football season. This is something that you have to safeguard, Steve. Not only that, but also there's so much money to be made legally in college athletics right now that if you're a kid who's like, oh, I wish I had some of that money, and somebody comes along and like, hey, man, got a little DraftKings or whatever side, whatever. I'm totally showing you I don't know anything about betting, but it could be, the potential is there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a reality today where, again, like you said, players are already getting paid, but not everybody's getting paid, and not everybody's getting paid on the same level, even in the same team. So it's a real thing, and it's something that, they're going to continue to monitor. I know here in North Carolina, obviously where North Carolina A&T is located, sports betting just became legal just over a year ago, and the schools are actually reaping the benefits of the rewards, as the HBCUs included. So it's good from that perspective, but obviously whenever sports betting is involved and it continues to grow, and there's so many ways that you can do it, from what I understand, that this is probably going to be the last time, like you said, that an HBCU or a small school is there, just because it maybe doesn't have the same scrutiny as, those folks over in Durham or Chapel Hill.
And just to amplify what you're saying, when sports betting becomes illegal in your state, a lot like the lottery, part of the legislation is that money will go back to public schools. So publicly funded, state-supported HBCUs in North Carolina would get a certain proceed from this level of gambling once it became legal in North Carolina just a while ago. So that's what you were referring to. And Steve, just for people out there who might be connecting the dots, let's give full transparency here to this conversation. North Carolina A&T did suspend two of its players in January, two of their leading scorers. There is no reported connection to gambling and the suspension. The timing is what it is, but there's been nothing reported that says that those players were involved in anything manipulating the outcome of the game in favor of any betting. But their leading scorers were kind of suspended in a very vague release by the school. So that is what it is. But were you, Steve, against the kind of introduction into gambling in the college ecosystem when this became a thing here recently?
Not really. Like you, I'm not a gambler myself. But I did, especially once I realized that, the HBCUs, as well as the other smaller state schools, stood a chance to earn this money. I definitely think it was a plus. I mean, hey, if people are going to gamble their money some way, it might as well benefit HBCUs. Just again in the state of North Carolina, I've seen it where there was nothing, and then there was something, and that was going to high school education. And I've seen what the money has done at the high school level in terms of helping out facilities and things like that. And so with our HBCUs, the state doesn't really give any money for athletics. And so this is a way that they can actually get money for the state, and a lot of them badly need it in terms of facilities and things like that. So I don't have any problem with it. But again, you see this is one of the things that has always been an issue, even going back to the 50s, which back in the 50s, that actually helped HBCUs get some of those good players when some of the northern schools that used to recruit Black players wouldn't recruit them after some nefarious activity there. So really interesting when you talk about HBCUs and sports betting. But hey, I mean, if Elizabeth City State can benefit off of some guy in Elizabeth City buying sports betting, why not?
All right, so that will be a story to continue to watch to see where that report and potential investigation goes. It will be a new look this year, Steve, for a classic that, had a lot of heritage. The Southern Heritage Classic for years and years and years was a matchup between Jackson State University and Tennessee State University. This past season, Jackson State was no longer involved. UAPB made the trip to Memphis, and they took on Tennessee State. And moving forward, big news, Tennessee State will no longer be in the Southern Heritage Classic. Steve, conversation comes back to money. Traditionally, Over the years, these classics have been placed in the hand of promoters, and the schools provide the talent, they provide the product, and the finances are handled by the promoters. Yesterday's price, not today's price. A tired cliche, but we see that has impacted the Southern Heritage Classic with both traditional teams pulling out. Do you think, moving forward, as the economy of scale grows in college athletics, that some traditional classics and rivalries could be impacted?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. If you look at the Southern Heritage Classic, again, this is because of the uniqueness of the matchup. This isn't a conference rivalry, right? These Tennessee State and Jackson State haven't been in the same conference in ages, back when they were in the old Midwest Conference, but they're in different conferences. So this was a game where this was just two fan bases who had a lot of history, who weren't far from each other, were able to meet every year in Memphis. And, it was a huge event. It would always be one of the better attended classics, especially when both teams are doing well. And so it's just amazing. After you do this long enough and you see how things change. 3 years ago, it was Jackson State when Deion Sanders was still the head coach, and obviously Ashley Robinson still the AD. They were, vocal about that they weren't getting their fair share, and they attempted to pull out of the game then. They ended up coming back for 2022, but they ended up, not. I think there was a couple years left on the contract, and they ended up settling with the Founders, and it was a big to do back in 2022. Tennessee State, the former leadership there, called out Jackson State for what they felt like was pulling out of a partnership that the two had, and now we see a couple years later, Tennessee State is kind of on the same wave. So it's again, our classics are what they are, our rivalries are what they are, will always be important, but the bottom line has always been important, but it's more important than ever in 2025 and beyond.
The Southern Heritage Classic, I imagine, will try to continue to move on. It had solid sponsorship in place throughout the years. But, Steve, no Jackson State, no Tennessee State. Like, it just does not. I mean, you could come through with the banger. You could come through with the banger. But do you see anything on the horizon that would continue to fill the seats and maybe the purses of those with a financial interest in the Southern Heritage Classic, sans Tennessee State and Jackson State?
I mean, it's going to be tough. I don't know. We're getting a lot of schedules that are in now, and of course, every schedule that's pretty much done necessarily isn't out. So there's not a lot of wiggle room to move a game. They would probably have to either move a game if it was a SWAC game, or a MEAC game. You don't know how well that's going to fare if it doesn't, include a team that's kind of local to them. And after that, you're kind of looking at the Division II ranks, maybe a CIAA SIAC matchup, maybe a SIAC on SIAC matchup. And, no one's to say that those matchups can't be successful. They have $400,000 with the offer to Tennessee State, $100,000 of that going to the bands and $3,000 going to the football program. They could probably get away that, depending on who you are, they might get away with spending that money on two teams. So, but again, they have had sponsorship at the national level. And I imagine that the organizers are scrambling, or hopefully for them, they had some type of contingency place. But I mean, even we saw in the last couple of years when Jackson State wasn't in it, it lost a lot of the luster. And so that's going to be the challenge for them moving forward. And we're in this era now with money games, and you can get $500,000 from a school. I think the payouts were like $225 or $250 for so many years at the Southern Heritage Classic. But we just saw Jackson State get $375 from an FBS team. So it's a lot more competition. Competition is just always there, and it's probably not going away.
Okay, last minute of the show here on HBCU Game Day. Steve, if you could take a team of all-stars from Division II versus Division I HBCUs, Who would you take? And the reason I asked that question, I think Division I HBCUs, Southern, Norfolk, talking about men here, top heavy, I would go with them. But I think Division II basketball is so much better from top to bottom this year. How would you rate D2 hoops?
I think that there is, again, a lot of parity there. Especially in the SIC, you got so many teams there. I know Miles is doing well. Albany State is doing well. Over in the CIAA, some of the traditional powers are down, but, you do have Lincoln, who has emerged over the last couple of years, and they're defending champs. They look good. Bowie State's finally figured out how to play basketball again. Virginia State, the same thing as well. So D2 basketball, the CIAA and SIC tournaments in Atlanta and Baltimore, respectively.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you next week right here. Don't forget, big episode of Brick by Brick. Big plot twist coming up on HBCU Game Day.